Dynamic components are the big new feature in SketchUp 7. You can use them in both the free and pro versions of SketchUp, but you need the pro version if you want to author new dynamic components. Dynamic components are represented here in the Components window by this symbol. It's like a little green triangle and two squares. Authoring dynamic components can be relatively simple for basic behaviors, all the way up to extremely complex components which require a kind of analytical mind that not everyone has. Therefore, I think the authoring of dynamic components is kind of a specialty skill that not everyone needs to learn. There's a component sampler that I'll just show you to demonstrate some of the things you can use in regards to dynamic components. There's also a toolbar up here, and if you don't see this, you need to load dynamic components as an extension, and then you'll have access to this toolbar. So this tool right here is called the Interact tool, and if you're using my shortcuts, that's letter I. If I click here, you'll see that I can change the pup's color. So this is an example of a behavior that can be built into a component using this new feature. Sang works in much the same way, where you interact with him by pressing I, or by clicking this icon on the toolbar, and then click on his shirt to change his shirt color. You can do the same thing on Nancy, but Nancy has some additional features where you can change her pants as well, and you can go up here and click on this button to open up the Component Options dialog. And here they're sort of teaching you that you can type in different color names, or you can use hexadecimal notation or RGB values. I could change this to 3 numbers between 0 and 255. And that's red, green, and blue. I'll apply, and that makes a change. So these really are just examples for dynamic component authors to come in here and extend. The bed is a little bit more sophisticated. Here we can go to the component options and choose the bed model. It changed the number of pillows and made the bed the right size. So this gives you ideas about how manufacturers might use dynamic components to offer you a menu of choices for their products. And that's exactly what some manufacturers are doing. The bench shows you how you can scale things and have the intelligence of the component adjust the proportions of the object. I'll press S to access the Scale tool. Notice that I only have 2 handles here. The number of handles can be limited in dynamic components. And now I can scale this, and as I do that and click again, it will automatically resize all of these items to be the proper proportion. This here is not a dynamic component. You see there's no green icon on it. It's a static component. The car is an interesting model. It has several behaviors. I'll press I for the Interact tool. Click on a door to open it. I'll click on the hood and these spheres appear. Click on a sphere to change the color. This is an innovative interface. You have this sort of menu of colors that's available that you can pick from. The couch is another example of a scalable component, and this works in 2 ways. You can scale it with the Scale tool, or you can use component options to set in a width. The door is an interesting model, but it requires that we make a wall to put it in. Let me just select everything and get rid of it. I'll make a wall, pull it up, turn off the axes, and let's go ahead and put this door in. It actually cuts through, but you wouldn't know it because the wall has thickness. I have to delete this to see that. But if I press I to interact with the door, I can make it open. And this has tremendous potential for walkthroughs, where you can click on things to open them. It's also useful for cabinets, to have doors open or drawers slide when you click on them. The fence model is actually really sophisticated underneath the hood. Very difficult to program this one. The way this works is by scaling. I can scale it over, and when I click again, it's going to recalculate all of the proportions. I can even scale it up, and it will maintain the proportions. The nice thing about this is it's easy for the user to operate, although it is rather challenging for the programmer. And again, that's why I recommend leaving dynamic components to people that are specialized in their creation. The floor framing is also another kind of intelligent object, where when you scale it, it will automatically reposition the joists and blocking as needed. You can go into component options and set things up. I can say I'm using 2x10s, 24 inches on center, and it will make the change. Quite useful. The street lights are for a larger scale, of course, so I'm going to zoom out and scale them. And not only do they add additional street lights, but they recolor each flag. It's kind of interesting. The mailbox here is clever. It allows you to open the doors by clicking on them. You can also change the color of the mailbox. So there's really a lot of complexity that can be built into these types of components. The stairs are nice because they allow you to create a stair based on what you normally think of, the rise and run. I can go over here in component options and set in my numbers. Let's say we want to have a run of 14 inches to have a little bit more of a comfortable stair. Then I'll go ahead and scale that in this direction, and it will automatically recalculate how many steps we need at that particular slope. We can likewise scale it this way to make it wider or narrower. So an amazing number of things you can do with dynamic components, and in the free version, you get to reap all the rewards of dynamic components, but you need the pro version if you want to learn how to program them.